All right, let's dive right in. We're going to take a look inside this, it's an elite 16-week masterclass. And its whole purpose is to forge the next generation of AI leaders. But get this, it's not about learning how to code another model. Nope, it's about something way, way harder: judgment. I mean, that's the core premise right out of the gate. The course it throws out the conventional playbook. It basically argues that the skills that got you into AI, those are not the skills that are going to let you lead in AI. See, the real challenge isn't just about technical skill anymore. It's about the wisdom to apply it correctly. So really, that's the big question we're digging into here. What separates a skilled AI user from a true AI leader? How do you make that jump from being the person who can build a model to the person who can build, defend, scale, and yeah, even kill an entire AI system when the pressure's on? Well, the answer starts somewhere you'd probably never expect. So the very first stop in this whole masterclass is something they call the unlearning gate. And the idea is simple. Before you can build anything new and strong, you have to completely demolish the old, shaky foundations. This is all about stripping away the hype, getting rid of all the dangerous misconceptions that even experienced AI folks bring to the table. And this starts with some really crucial mindset resets. First up, you have to accept that models are stochastic. That just means they're fundamentally probabilistic. They're not some kind of oracle spitting out absolute truth. Second, you've got to stop blaming the model's architecture when things go wrong. The real culprits, it's almost always bad data and misaligned incentives. And maybe most important of all, you have to internalize this one simple truth: shipping AI means shipping risk, period. Okay, and this part, I think this is brilliant. To even get into the class, you have to pass what they call a hard gate. And here's the test. Candidates have to successfully argue for killing a promising AI project. The logic is so simple, but it's really profound. True leadership isn't just about what you decide to build. It's about having the courage to decide what not to build. All right, so once that slate is wiped clean, the real work begins. The second big phase of this course is all about thinking in first principles. You can think of it as atomic thinking. It's all about deconstructing AI down to its absolute most fundamental components so you can understand how it really works under the hood. And the first huge mental leap you have to make is this: stop thinking about text as words and start seeing it as geometry. Yeah, geometry. The core idea here is that meaning doesn't actually live in the words themselves. Instead, words are like coordinates on a massive mathematical map, what we call a vector space. So words with similar meanings, like, say, cat and feline, they're just really close together on this map. And once you get that geometric view, it becomes the key to predicting how a model is actually going to behave. Next up, the course completely demystifies transformers. We hear about them all the time, but they're not magic. They're an economic system. That self-attention mechanism that makes them so incredibly powerful, well, it's also described as economically violent. And that's because its costs scale quadratically. It gets expensive fast. So a real leader has to be able to defend their choice of architecture based on the cost, not just the performance. And this whole reframing thing, it even extends to the concept of alignment. Now, a lot of people think of this as a purely ethical or philosophical problem, right? But this masterclass frames it very differently, as a constrained optimization problem. Suddenly, it becomes a technical trade-off. The question isn't some abstract, is it good? The question is, how much model accuracy are you willing to sacrifice to reduce a very specific business risk? So with those first principles locked in, the course moves on. We're going beyond the perfect model now. This is where we leave that clean, theoretical world in the rearview mirror and step onto the ugly, messy path of building a real production-grade AI system. And this requires a huge shift in thinking, from being model-centric to being system-centric. And the focus moves to some, ugly realities of production. First truth, your data is the real product. Models will come and go, but your data is forever. Second, retrieval isn't magic. It's a brutal optimization problem, this constant tug of war between recalls, speed, and trust. And finally, you have to build agents that assume they will fail. You have to design them without delusions, right from the very start. And that really is the core principle when you're building AI agents. The second you give a system autonomy, the power to act on its own, you are introducing a brand new vector of risk. A leader's job isn't to pretend that risk doesn't exist, or even to eliminate it. It's to design systems with kill switches and guardrails so you can manage that risk effectively. Okay, so now we're in the operational phase. The system is built, but the job's not done. Now it has to be scaled, it has to be maintained, and it has to be trusted by users and by the business for the long haul. And in production, AI leaders are fighting a constant battle. On one hand, your users want zero delay, right? Instant answers. That affects their happiness. But reducing that latency might slow down the whole system, or it could drive up the cost for every single query, something the finance department is definitely going to notice. So your job as a leader is to constantly be tuning this tricky three-way trade-off. And then there's drift. It's this simple, unavoidable fact. The world is always changing, but your model might not be. This concept is absolutely critical. If your AI system is static, it's already dying. Its performance will degrade over time. It's inevitable. So leaders have to plan for this from day one, building systems that are designed to evolve. And remember that principle from the beginning? Shipping AI is shipping risk? Well, here it is again, but now in the context of production. This is exactly why AI systems demand the same level of engineering discipline as any other piece of mission-critical software. We're talking rigorous versioning, controlled rollbacks, canary deployments, the whole shebang. You have to ship with caution. Okay, this brings us to the final transformation. This is about moving from just being a technical authority to becoming an organizational one. We're talking about wielding real power and real responsibility within the business. And that leads to a pretty harsh business reality, summed up by this quote: "If you can't price it, it's a hobby." You absolutely have to translate your technical work into financial value. Can you put a price on the cost per task? Can you attribute revenue to what you're building? Because if you can't defend your budget with a clear ROI, your project is just going to be seen as a hobby, and it will not survive a conversation with the CFO. Which brings us to the final exam, and it's an absolute gauntlet. It is non-negotiable. First, you have to defend your system design under attack from all sides: technical, financial, and legal. Then, you have to once again show that judgment to say no, explaining what you chose not to build. And finally, you have to present a realistic 12-month roadmap that includes a budget, risks, and yes, the specific criteria for when to kill the project. You fail on any one of those, you do not graduate. And that really brings us full circle. The entire masterclass, everything we've talked about, it all boils down to this one final provocative idea. That true AI strategy, true leadership, isn't an act of addition. It's an act of subtraction. It's all about the wisdom of refusal. So it leaves you with this question, and I'll leave it with you too. As you think about your own work, what's on your kill list?